God must really love you. Who's you? You the people that have been asking me if you could learn from such and such rabbi, and if no, why not? Many people have asked me over the years if they could learn from different speakers, from different rabbis, who's good, who's bad. Can you learn something from everyone? Because that's certainly a statement that we've all heard. You could learn something from everyone, you could learn something from everything. Although there is some truth to it, some people don't necessarily know how to apply it. The Chazon Ish is going to tell us what is the real Jewish HaShkafa about who to learn from, and whether you really are allowed to learn from everyone. What if the rabbi is a bad guy? What if he says bad things? What if he does bad things? Do you still learn from him as long as he's really, really smart? What if your kid tells you that the rabbi did something bad, like yell at him, insult him? Do you believe the kid or assume the rabbi is right? What if the rabbi tells you your kid did something and really the kid says the opposite? Do you assume one is right over the other? What if you want to be really involved? What if you can't be involved in the relationships that your kids have with their rabbis? In fact, what if you don't even know how to handle the relationship you have with your own rabbi? These are some of the questions we all need answers for. And the Chazon Ish, BeEzrat HaShem, is going to give us those answers tonight in this series. Enjoy, share, and be holy. בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. We are starting a new week, and BeEzrat HaShem, lots of learning, continuing our series of the Jewish ideology, Jewish HaShkafa, based on the Chazon Ish's Emunah and Bitachon Sefer, highly recommended Sefer, but of course I recommend people to learn the Sefer along with the Shiur because it's not a very simple book to understand, to say the least, even though it's translated. Tonight's Shiur will be for the Refuah Shlema and Leda Kala for Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Avimori David ben Nesriya, Imimorati Doris bat Jora, Sarah bat Esther, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahites that continue to watch our shiurim, continue to help us do all the amazing things that the organization is doing. Reminder to everybody, go to the Kiruv store that we have, get yourself some of these cards to distribute in your community. This is mainly meant for the U.S. We have some already in Israel. If you're located in Israel, we can get you some of the books and these cards in Israel as well. Other countries, it's a little expensive to ship, so if you want to pay for the shipping, by all means, we'd be happy to send it to you, like some of our Talmidim are doing in Canada and in other places. But Baruch Hashem, the books are having an amazing feedback. There's actually a few people that have taken the books and started to teach from them. A couple of guys, actually, a couple of rabbis in Israel have taken this book and have made it their weekly shiur, Baruch Hashem. So it's getting some amazing feedback. The books are in Hebrew, the USBs are in English, and the cards are in English and Hebrew. So you got a lot of different things to choose from. All of it's free for the sake of Am Yisrael doing tshuva. So with that being said, we have Baruch Hashem a lot to work on, a lot to teach, a lot to learn, and some of you are going to hear this shiur, and it's going to be exactly the question that you've been asking, thinking, and perhaps even today. For some of you that have asked me this question, apparently HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you because He made a whole shiur just for you. It wasn't programmed, structured this way. This is simply siyata dishmaya of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to speak about. And it's a question that many of you have asked me about. Over the years, people have decided to make me the compliance officer of the rabbinical world, or at least the speaking world, where each time somebody decides that they want to listen to a different rabbi, apparently they've completed all of our shiurim, or they got bored of us, or they're simply interested in somebody else, they like to run it by us and they ask me, can I listen to this guy? Can I listen to this rabbi? Can I listen to that one? Now, it's a important question to ask, but the question is, why are you asking it? Why are you asking these questions? If you have doubts, then why even bother? On the same token, if you don't have doubts, why are you asking? So, many times the questions really have the answers in them. But needless to say, there are some of us that really do have genuinely that question. They want to listen to a certain speaker. Apparently, the speaker was spoken of very highly by somebody that they know. They're popular. They have a lot of views. And some people even say they're a tzaddik, they're smart, they're this, they're that. And you want to know, can you continue learning from this speaker, from this rabbi? Or better yet, you're already learning with this rabbi. You're learning with this rabbi, you have a chabura, you have one of the study sessions at the shul, and this is the rabbi that is teaching Gemara, Mussar, or Halacha, or anything else. And, the issue came up where perhaps something odd happened. Perhaps it was a little bit of disrespect, maybe a disagreement, or simply something that the rabbi said that disagrees with everything that you've learned, and you know for sure that the rabbi is wrong. Can you continue learning from him? In fact, can you learn from some of the people that we have exposed? And I don't have to mention their names again. Anyone that's been listening to me for some time knows those names. Can you listen to those shurim? Or will you be like our dear Baruch Teasley, that had an extraordinary interview in our podcast, just aired last night. Got an extraordinary positive feedback from different people around the world. People absolutely loved you, Baruch. And in fact, one of the things that I learned from that interview is, what does a real Talmid look like? What does a real Talmid look like? A lot of times people tell me, listen, I watched a lot of your lectures. Can I be your Talmid? Can I be your student? Everyone wants to be a student. Fine, you want to be a student. But do you really know what a student is? What a Talmid really is? And I would suggest everyone watch that interview, if not for the story, simply to learn what does it actually mean to be a Talmid of a rabbi. Any rabbi, not just me. Any rabbi. What does it actually mean to be a Talmid? And I can assure you that once you watch that interview, you're not only going to be inspired about his personal story and how he overcame all types of obstacles that certainly got in the way and tried to get in the way, but he didn't let them. But you're also going to learn, what is an actual Talmid look like? What is somebody that actually has a rabbi, that he says, this is my rabbi? What does he say? What does he do? How does he act? And this, Rabotai, is an absolute lesson to all of us, because all of us would like to say that Rabbi so-and-so is our rabbi, but I can tell you that a lot of times people are deluding themselves into thinking that their rabbi is really their rabbi. Now, the Chazon Ish is going to start a new segment in chapter 4, segment Ot Tet Zayin, 16, and he says the following: one of the main detrimental factors is having a teacher of many people whose character traits are not perfect. As a side note, we know from the Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan that if you want to learn from somebody, you have to learn from somebody that has great midot. The Gemara compares them to an angel. Of course, in our generation, as long as they're not a demon, it's already a plus. But nonetheless, a teacher has to have good midot. They have to have good character traits. And in fact, the Gemara forbids any of us from learning from somebody that has bad character traits. And this is in essence what the Chazon Ish is beginning by saying, that a teacher that does not have perfect character traits is already a problem, but then he elaborates on it. An unperfect educator is doubly detrimental. Here he's telling us that it's not just bad for an educator, whether he's a rabbi or speaker or a school teacher, whatever it is. It's not just bad or not good that they have bad character traits. It's detrimental, even more than anything else. Why? On one hand, he does not know the Mussar teachings and does not know when it's proper to be strict with his students. After he unknowingly gives them a bad example with his own deeds. Then, even if his teachings are right and true, his lack of integrity prevents his students from accepting them. And moreover, his students learn from his actions more than from his teachings. See here, the Chazon Ish, in essence, answers some of us the big question. If the teacher, the speaker, the rabbi, whoever, has bad character traits, even if what he's teaching you is right, he's telling you the correct halacha, he's telling you the correct pshat of the Gemara, he's telling you the exact commentary that Rashi and Tosfot and the rest of the Mefarshim, the commentators, are saying over there in this week's parasha. But he has bad character traits. He does things that are inappropriate. He looks at girls. He looks at things that are forbidden to him. He uses cuss words. He has foul language, foul behavior. He sometimes even acts disgusting. And it doesn't have to be all of the above. It has to be simply one of them. Just one of these. He's an angry person. One time you asked him a question, and instead of answering you, he simply yelled at you because you questioned what he said. How? Who are you to question me? I said it already. Oh, you don't hear? What are you, deaf? This is the response that you got. Already the Chazon Ish says, this is a problem. What kind of problem? That even if he teaches the right thing, the main thing that his students are going to learn from him is not going to be the right thing, but rather his behavior. That's what they're going to learn from him. Now, why? Why is this the case? And we're going to obviously continue further with the Chazon Ish, but let's cover this part first. Why is it that if the teacher is constantly talking about how has a lot of money and he has all these businesses and he's very materialistic, but yet he tells you that barely have enough to finish the week that you should have emunah? He dresses like one of these HaShem Inc, these movie stars, but yet he tells you, hold on tight to your Yiddishkeit. He tells you that, yes, learning is important, but make sure that you have a good job. And make sure you get a good education at university. And in so many words, doing exactly what Rav Wasserman, alav Shalom, said was being done here in America nearly 100 years ago, that led him to write a letter to his students that it's better for him to die than to go to America, because they compare the secular studies to the Torah as if it's in the same level. These things seem odd to people. If I tell them, listen, if the teacher embarrassed you in public, most people are going to say, yeah, you're right. If he embarrassed me in public, I'm replacing a teacher. I'm replacing the rabbi. If he acted stingy in certain ways, when he tells everybody that has these donors that are sponsoring people to come to the yeshiva that he's running, but yet when you brought your son to come to his yeshiva, he told you no. Why? Because perhaps you are not in the same custom as him, you're not in the same background as him. He's Ashkenazi, you're Sephardi. He's Sephardi, you're Ashkenazi, and he's in essence racist among his own brothers. These are the types of things that, of course, we've heard, unfortunately, enough stories to make our ears bleed, of different people that led their communities or misled their communities in that fashion. But sometimes you'll hear a speech from those people. Those very same people that say things that are heretical, same people that say things that are arrogant, same people that invite people that are forbidden to be in a community, to be guest speakers, all types of immoral people, people involved in unethical businesses. Same types of people. You hear them speak. They make a nice YouTube video. They have a lecture with hundreds and hundreds of guests, yearning every word that they say. and you say to yourself, listen, I don't have anything to do tonight. Can I go to the lecture? Can I go to the speech? Can I go hear the shiur of such and such rabbi? Chazon Ish says, if he has bad character traits, it doesn't matter what he says, because what you're going to learn is the bad character traits. Why? Why is this way? Even before that, why doesn't this teacher know how to behave? Rabbi Ephraim Shichye says there's many answers to that. One, he may be a teacher, he may be a rabbi, but he doesn't learn Mussar. He may teach Mussar, he may teach halacha, he may teach Gemara, but he teaches, doesn't learn. And there's a world of difference between the two. To preach to the public is not the most difficult thing in the world. To be who you say for them to be who they think you are, that's a completely different world. So he teaches, but he doesn't learn. Or he's learned already, and like one poor wife told me years ago about our husband, who is apparently a Talmid Chacham that abuses his wife. Obviously not a Talmid Chacham, he's just a Talmid Chacham in his own imagination. When I asked her, why don't you tell him to watch my shiurim? She says, no, he would never. I said, okay, so he doesn't have to watch my shiurim, but at least read some Mussar books. She says, no, Rabbi, you don't understand. I've told him, read Mussar books. He tells me, I have read over 40 Mussar books. I teach Mussar. I said, wait, hold on a second. The same guy you just told me that abuses you, the same guy that you just told me that does all of these horrible, evil things, he read 40 Mussar books? She said, yes. This was nearly 10 years ago. I didn't know what to do with myself. How could this possibly be? And then as, obviously, I asked my Rav, and as we've learned, a person can teach the exact opposite of who he really is. And this, unfortunately, is all too common. So, the second reason is that he teaches, but as far as for him learning, he's tired of changing. Meaning that he learns it, he knows what has to be done, but he doesn't feel like doing it. He'll tell you, listen, anger is a horrific thing to have. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it an abomination. It's being compared to idolatry in the Gemara Masechet Shabbat. 5 minutes after he finishes speaking, when the time comes to pay him his fee, the people tell him, listen, we're sorry, we forgot the checkbook. Can we just send it to you next week? He loses his mind on it. Whoa, how could you disrespect me like this? You should have been prepared. He himself gets angry. He just told everybody not to be angry. What do you think everyone is going to do? They heard an hour shiur about him not being angry, but he got angry. What are they going to do with that angry shiur? They're going to throw it in the garbage. Why? The entire shiur just turned into his 2 minutes of losing his mind. The third thing, Rabbi Ephraim says, is that, very simple, the Satan put him there. The Malach HaMavet has the ability to help people. Yes, he has permission from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help people do evil. Someone wants to do evil, someone wants to do bad, and the Gemara says, Abali ter mesain be'ado, abali tameh potchim lo. Someone that comes to be purified gets help from Hashem. You want to be good, you want to give tzedakah, you want to learn, you want to teach, you want to do all good things, Hashem will help you. Some bali tameh, someone that wants to do bad things, wants to be impure, do impure things, make sins. Hashem will allow the Satan to help you also. What do you want? Mislead people? Satan, go, get him a job over there at that yeshiva. You want to teach heresy? Okay, get him a YouTube channel. Make sure that people think a lot of people following him. So he buys subscribers every Thursday. So it makes it seem as if many people are actually following him. At least many more than what they really do. Make him look good. Why? That's what he wants to do. Hey, but wait a minute. Why would a Kadosh Baruch Hu help an evil person? Isn't that helping him hurt us? No. Why? Because if you yourself want the truth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help you. Which means you will be guided towards the truth. But if you want something that's convenient for you, that you don't really want the truth, you want something that is soothing to your misdeeds, something that is appropriate to your misguided life, then guess what? Hashem has a teacher for you also. You want to believe that God needs you? Hashem has a teacher for you. You want to believe that God is a man of flesh and blood that died because he couldn't even save himself, like 2 billion people do? Hashem has teachers for you too. You want to believe some illiterate guy heard the voice of God in the middle of the desert and then wrote a book? By all means. Hashem has many teachers for you. All types of teachers. You have a need to know that your leader is Mashiach. Why? Because he acts weird. He falls asleep in the middle of the day and he pretends like he's getting a prophecy. He speaks like this and he closes his eyes and he pretends as if he's giving you a prophecy. All he's saying is just simply basic commentary of the first couple of verses of the Torah. But since you're so ignorant, you have no idea. And it sounds like he's prophesizing. Hashem has a teacher for you. Any type of teacher you want, Hashem has a teacher for you. In so many words, it's not Hashem's fault that you went to the bad teacher. You wanted it. Why is he a bad teacher? He wants to be bad. He either doesn't want to learn, or he's simply tired of learning and then changing, which in so many words is even worse, because he knows the truth and simply does not want to apply it. Or, worse than everything else, the Satan says, you know what, that teacher, he's my number one employee. I'm going to have him teach 500 people a day. Satan puts him at the job. Now, these types of teachers don't necessarily always show their true colors. Usually, the colors that they show are bright and shiny. That's why they have so many followers. But then, as is always eventually exposed, the rapes, molestations, theft, and all types of other misdeeds get exposed. But anyone that was close enough to those teachers could have seen the trail of misdeeds until it was exposed. You see how these types of people disrespect their students, mock them, belittle them. Who are you to question me? Who are you to tell me what to do? Simply just not even mock and not even make fun, but just look at you funny like, are you even serious asking me this question? Like some people, when they speak, when people ask a question, like, it's the wrong question you're asking. And then they go on a completely different subject. And people are so embarrassed that they asked the wrong question according to this teacher that, like, oh, yeah, sure, that's what I meant. Right, what you said. That's what I meant. Yeah, right. Because many people, if they're not learned, they don't know what to ask. And if the other guy, whether it be a rabbi or a famous speaker and so on, is supposed to be learned, supposed to be an expert, supposed to be a scholar, immediately people have a certain type of fear of them. But the student that sticks around and falls into this trap will learn more from his behavior than even 1,000 of his lectures. In Israel, they have this thing that they do in different yeshivot and seminaries where they want to bring a rabbi or rebbitzin to teach in a school a certain subject. And the rabbi says, listen, to teach this subject, I need a commitment of 10 different lectures, 12 lectures, 15 lectures. And each lecture, they charge a certain amount of money. $1,000, $500, more or less, depending on who the speaker is. We did this a few times in our girls' seminary in Israel. I wasn't a big fan of paying speakers, but nonetheless, sometimes you do what you have to do in order to get education to the kids. And the speakers are very, very adamant about making sure that they get paid and so on. But sometimes they wait till the end. So imagine a speaker commits to, let's say, 10 speeches, 10 classes. And he says, listen, for each class, just for argument's sake, pay me $100. I don't think you can get any teacher in the world to pay $100 or any rabbi in the world to work for $100. But nonetheless, unless he's, 18 years old and brand new, if he's a well-known speaker, add a few zeros to that. At least one. Now, but let's just say he agrees to do 10 classes and each class is $100. Fine. What is the series of classes about? Controlling your temper and not being upset that somebody did something wrong to you, even if they're right. Even if you're right, you should still control yourself. 10 classes pass, and just like the original example we gave, at the 10th class, everyone has learned everything. The rabbi comes to collect his check for $1,000, and Rosh Yeshiva says, I'm sorry, we didn't gather all the money yet. We only have $500 to pay you now, and $500 we'll pay you next month. And to their surprise, this master, this scholar of anger, shows him that he's really a scholar of anger, meaning he shows his anger. And now all 10 classes go into the garbage because that's what the students end up learning. His behavior rather than his words. Now, the Chazon Ish elaborates further on why this is the case. And he says, the relationship of a teacher to his students demands of the teacher excellent character and self-improvement. And when a teacher berates his students using coarse expressions and shouting angrily at them because of some wrong that the student had done, good and bad become intermingled. Says that even if the student did something bad, you have the right to rebuke him. You need to rebuke him. It's a mitzvah to rebuke him. It's part of education. But if the way that you rebuke the student is embarrassing them, is shouting at them, is showing them anger, real anger, is taking it personal, rather than hating the sin, you hate the person type of behavior, then whatever good that student has learned is now mixed with bad behavior. And it may be indeed a useful rebuke, says the Chazon Ish, and the student might awaken to the enormity of his sin and take upon himself not to repeat it. But there is also a bad influence in that student when he becomes used to the coarseness and over strictness that he is hearing from his teacher as he sees him using these negative traits with him as well as with other students. Learning from actions is of greater power than learning academically. And the students always imitate their teacher. Mostly the rebuke itself is faulty when it's accompanied by a show of bad character traits, And when the students persist in learning from an unperfected educator, he will acquire the bad traits as well. So here we see that the outcome of learning from people that are, Chazon Ish uses a few different words. In English they translate it as imperfect, but really the Chazon Ish says disgusting. The real translation in Hebrew is disgusting. Goal nefesh, like goal is disgusting. The student, whether he intends to or doesn't, that sees his teacher yelling at him or others, embarrassing him or others, is going to learn that, even if he doesn't intend to. Even if he does not intend to, he's not coming to a class. When his parents sign him up, or he signs himself up to go to this lecture, to go to this class, he didn't check off, I want to learn halacha, I want to learn about parasha, I also want to learn how to be more angry. I also want to learn how to insult people. I also want to learn how to feel like a loser. No, he didn't sign up those things. Those things weren't even on the paper. When they highlighted this speaker coming to town, and they put a big poster and they called him a tzaddik, a kadosh, a chacham, and all these other adjectives that describe as if he's one of the gedolei adol, they didn't put the nasty person that makes fun of everyone. They didn't put that. The person that does not see any wrong in himself but only in everyone else, that they didn't put. The person that wants everything for himself and nothing for you, that for sure they didn't put. What they put, he's amazing, he's this, he's all the compliments. So when everybody shows up, and of course, they try to befriend the teacher, the rabbi, the speaker, today you have to make sure you give multiple titles because people like titles. It's important to them. They may even reject the job if you don't give them the right title. Even if the income is correct, the title is wrong, they won't accept the job. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in. So, the people that are going there, they're going to try to befriend him. They're going to try to connect to him. They may give him a little donation perhaps. They may support him in other ways. They may host him. Why? Because they want to be close to this person. And then, of course, they want advice. They want to chit-chat. They want some guidance. And when they ask for guidance, all of a sudden they start hearing this so-called speaker use street language, foul language, use all types of forbidden words, words that are simply disgusting to say, needless to say, to hear, especially from a leader. I know in the business world and in the social, secular world, these words are socially acceptable, but for the people of the chosen book, the chosen people of the book, these words are forbidden. A few times people have asked me about a certain speaker. I've never said anything about him publicly or mentioned him by name. But a few times they've asked me about, if I answered, I said stay away. When they asked me why, I said because listening to a so-called rabbi that so-called teaches Kabbalah while he's using curse words is not my idea of learning. Or learning from a rabbi that has pictures of immodest women, including his wife or some other strange women, on his Facebook page without any embarrassment or shame. That's not my idea of a teacher. But for some reason, people have this yetzirah to want to go to all types of teachers. So, the Chazon Ish is telling us here that even if his shiurim about emunah, his shiurim about Rabbi Nachman Breslev's bitachon series, his series about how important you are in the world and how much God loves you, and his series about Shlom Bayit, and all of these different series of lectures and events that you see the pictures sometimes and you see hundreds and hundreds of victims because they don't know they're victims. That's what makes them more of a victim. And all of those people are in trouble without even realizing it, because while they're listening to his teachings about emunah and bitachon and shlom bayit and whatever other topic he chooses to discuss, then they're also going to learn his demeanor. They're also, if they get closer to him, they're going to learn even more things that he doesn't say in the lectures. They usually don't curse in the speech. They usually don't yell and scream at their students in the speech. They usually don't embarrass people in the speech. No. That's private. That's when the camera's off. And one of the most wonderful things that HaShem provides us as a mirror to let you know where you stand, whether you're a good teacher or a bad teacher, is students. Why? Your students are a reflection of you. If your students are decent, moral, nice people that want to do good, that are doing good, that's an indication of who you are as a teacher. But if your students are all immodest, all anti-God, all completely heretical, all are chasing money instead of chasing God, that's also an indication of who you are as a teacher. Now, of course, the students are not, or people say that they're students, they're not always students. Sometimes they were that way, and they weren't really looking to change. They were just looking to find somebody that's going to pacify them and just teach them what they want to know in order for them to continue their behavior. So it's not really the speaker or the rabbi's fault. But the point being is that if somebody's listening to a speaker for X amount of years and they're still a reprehensible person, then that is certainly an indication of what kind of teacher they have. One of the greatest teachers, rabbis, Talmidei Chachamim, that we had in the last 100 years was Rav Galinsky, Rav Yankele Galinsky. He has a series of books from his speeches that is called Vigadita. I believe they have it in English and Hebrew and perhaps even several other languages. In his segment on Megillat Esther, page 52, he brings the verse in the beginning of the Megillah where Haman tells Achashverosh that he must kill Vashti for disrespecting Achashverosh the king. Why? Because if you don't kill her, then all of the other wives are going to hear this, of how Vashti disrespected you, and they're also going to disrespect their husbands. Since the queen can disrespect the king, certainly a regular woman can disrespect her husband. As a side note, the Midrash says that's exactly what was happening in Haman's house, as his evil wife used to call the shots and used to disrespect him on a regular basis. So Haman, in so many words, wanted to use this killing of Vashti as a way to force his wife to calm down. Because, hey, if the king killed the queen, I would be allowed to kill you. The Midrash Rabbah, Esther, the fourth section, the fourth perek, section 7, elaborates on this. And that's what the Rav Galinsky is bringing. In the name of Rabbi Shmuel, or Rav Shmuel, he says, why is it that after Achashverosh heard Haman bring his case to kill Vashti, saying that there's a risk that other wives are going to learn from this, the response that Achashverosh had was, you're right, let's kill her, but after we kill her, send a letter to all of the countries in the world that I control to let them know about what happened. Let them know that she said something, she went against the king, and the king killed her. So Rav Shmuel asks, why is it that on one end, you're saying you're concerned that what Vashti said is going to infect all of the other wives? So you're worried about the gossip. But to fix it, you're not worried about the gossip. Why don't you just let the gossip, people are going to hear you killed her, and that's it. It's the same way that the gossip could hurt, the gossip could help. You're afraid that people are going to gossip about how Vashti spoke against you. So once you kill her, why do you have to send letters everywhere? Spend millions of dollars on sending letters to every country, in every house, in every community, just to make sure that they know you killed her because she spoke against you. Why don't you just let the word travel around the same way that you were afraid it was going to travel around? Says the Rav Shmuel, does Vashti really need a messenger? Yes. Why? To learn evil doesn't require a messenger. But to teach people good must include a messenger. And hopefully they succeed, the Midrash says. Meaning, the bad thing that Vashti did, speaking against the king, you don't need to let people know about it through messages. Why? They're going to find out on their own. Why? Somebody did something bad. Oh, let me tell you about this. You know what happened with the king? You know what happened with the rabbi? You know what happened with the house? You know what happened? And people like to gossip. Bad stuff. What about if something good happened? Why don't you share it with your friends that the rabbi said something good? Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if I want to share it. Why? I don't know if he's interested in that stuff. Oh. Why don't you share that they're distributing food in the community to help people, poor people in Israel? Yeah, when I get to it. What happened? How come good is more difficult to share? That's how the nature of people was created. Bad, they're happy to share quickly. Good requires an extra messenger. Good requires an extra messenger. You have to more help, more money, more effort. Achashverosh says in order for everyone to know that they're not allowed to do what Vashti did, not only to the king but to their own husbands, I have to let them know with a letter. In so many words, I have to fix it with clear instructions. The Talmud Yerushalmi in Masechet Moed Katan, the second perek, halacha number 2, brings another example of this. Rav Yanai had a vineyard. The holiday came, and he saw that his vineyard was going to get ruined if he didn't take care of something. Now it was Chol HaMoed. On Chol HaMoed, you're not allowed to work, but if you're protecting from a loss, you're allowed. The people saw that the Rav is doing work. In their eyes, it's work. They don't care if he's protecting himself from a loss, not protecting himself from a loss. They're simply seeing the rabbi work. What do? Everybody go back to work. Yeah, but you're not allowed to work on Chol HaMoed. It's holiday. The rabbi's working. No, he's not working. He's just protecting his merchandise. Doesn't go bad. It works. The rabbi saw this. Rav Yanai saw this. So a year later, he didn't want this to happen again. What did he do? For the holiday, he sold the vineyard. He found a non-Jew, said, listen, I'll sell you my vineyard for this period of time. Whatever money comes in, it's yours. You just take care of it. Okay, deal. Everyone knew that Rav Yanai sold the vineyard, so he doesn't have to worry about fixing it, doesn't have to worry about protecting it, doesn't have to worry about nothing. What happened? Everybody still worked. Why? They didn't learn from the good. Only the bad they learned. Why? It's the nature of people. That's the nature of people. Rav Galinsky continues, and he brings a third example. An example from the Chazon Ish himself. He says there was a minyan. They used to pray at the house of the Chazon Ish. And one time, one of the people that prayed at the house brought his young son. And his son, was young and cute and, little kids. Sometimes they like to cause trouble. They don't really realize that it's distracting everyone. They just do what they do. Now the father is embarrassed because not only it's his son, but it's next to the Gedol Hador of biggest rabbi in the world, Chazon Ish. The kid is making noise. The father walks over to him and trach on his face. Don't make noise in the shul. After the prayer was done, of course the kid was quiet for the rest of the prayer. The Chazon Ish came up to this man and he says to him, you taught your son two things. One, it's not good to make noise in a synagogue while people are praying. Two, it's okay to hit people when you're angry. Which one of those lessons, says the Chazon Ish to this man, do you think is going to make a bigger impression on him for the rest of his life? The man crumbled from shame of what he just taught his son. Because the truth is, the kid, he's making noise in a synagogue, but if you tell him not to do it, you don't bring him next time, you warn him, eventually he'll learn, he'll grow out of it. But that slap, that could be a life lesson. That kid is going to think it's okay to hit when you're angry. And that's a lesson you didn't want him to learn. Rav Galinsky brings a fourth example in the name of Rav Kanievsky, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, alav shalom. Rav Kanievsky, they used to learn the Talmud Bavli and the Talmud Yerushalmi and the Midrash Rabbah and the Zohar and the Shulchan Aruch and the entire Tanakh and a whole list of other series of books every single year, found the proof of this in the Talmud, in the Gemara Masechet Menachot, page 68b. He says, there was one time, the Gemara says, that they were sitting and learning, and the Gedol Hador, the elder, Rabbi Tarfon, was struggling with a certain halacha. To understand the emet in a specific halacha. He was struggling with it to get to the point. One of the Talmidim, Rabbi Yehudah bar Nechanya. Rabbi Yehudah bar Nechanya is one of the giants If he's mentioned by name in the Gemara, that means that he was at a level to resurrect the dead, says the Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah. It's not just, many times they mention in the Gemara, so-and-so, one of the rabbis, Rava, Abaye, Rabbi Yehudah HaNasi, Rabbi Akiva, they mention them by name. These are the giants. When they mention their students, many times they don't mention the students by name. But here in this case, they mention the student by name because he himself was a giant. So Rabbi Yehudah Bar Nechunya sees that his rabbi, Rabbi Tarfon, is struggling, and he himself has the answer. And he says, no, it's this. And he gives the answer. The Gemara says, Rabbi Tarfon shatak. He was silenced, meaning Rabbi Yehudah was right. So Rabbi Yehudah was happy with himself. He got the right answer when the Gdol Ador didn't have it. Now even the Gdol Ador, even Rabbi Tarfon, he didn't get mad at him. But Rabbi Akiva that was there looked at Rabbi Yehudah Bar Nechunya and said to him, you're happy and celebrating that you silenced one of the elders? It will amaze me if you live a long life. That time was just a couple of weeks before Pesach. When the time for Pesach came, they asked, where's Rabbi Yehudah Bar Nechunya? He said he died. He died. Why? Rabbi Akiva got angry with him for celebrating and his silencing of his teacher. So comes Rav Kanievsky and he says, isn't it a great loss to lose such a Talmid? He was a Gaon, he was a genius. Okay, so he made a mistake and he spoke out of turn and he even celebrated when his rabbi didn't know. But is it really worth it to lose such a great Talmid just because of this? And says Rav Kanievsky, Rabbi Akiva Paskin, yes, it's worth it and it's necessary. Why? If he has such a horrible character trait to celebrate at the downfall of his teacher, to celebrate at the downfall of his peers, needless to say his teacher, then even if he's a genius, whoever learns from him will learn his terrible character trait that's going to be mixed up with some of his knowledge. And that is not what we want. Because the first thing people will learn, they'll learn this terrible character trait. And the more knowledge they acquire, the more this terrible character trait will cause damage. And for that, it was worth it for Rabbi Akiva to be angry at him for what he did. It's also an halacha. המתכבד בקלון חברו אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. Someone that celebrates the downfall of his fellow has no share of the world to come. This is part of the reason of why it's customary that at the inner cover of all Gemarot, all Talmud, there's different blessings you're supposed to say before you start learning and also after you start learning. And one of the things that it says is that you ask Hashem, you plead with Hashem, that when you learn, you don't learn something incorrectly and say that something that's pure is impure and something that's pure is impure. And then your fellow colleagues are going to make fun of you. And also that your colleagues don't learn something incorrectly, where they see something that's pure is impure and impure is pure, meaning the opposite, and you make fun of them. Why do you need to make a special blessing and a prayer for this before you learn? In order to remind yourself Your success in learning is a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and never a reason to make fun of somebody who doesn't know. Needless to say, somebody you're learning with. For that, you can lose Olam Haba. You could literally lose Olam Haba for that. That's a Mishnah. So comes Rav Kanievsky and tells us that's why this happened. Someone that was a giant lost his right to exist in the world because of, to us, at first looks like, what did he do? What's going on here? It's better that he got that punishment than losing Olam Haba. The Gemara brings another example where the Talmidim of Rabbi Yehudah HaNasi had a little competition between them. And one was disrespectful to the other. As soon as Rabbi Yehudah HaNasi saw the truth is with Rabbi Ishmael bar Rabbi Yossi, that the truth is with his student, Rabbi Ishmael, the son of Rabbi Yossi, he rebuked the other student. And at that moment, both of that student's sons died. And the Gemara says over there, good that the punishment and embarrassment came to him at that time. Because had he got punished for what he did in the next world, it would be much, much worse. Rabbi Yechezkel Levinstein, alav shalom, said once that the weakest day spiritually in the yeshiva was Friday. Why Friday? He says because some of the bachurim, the students of the yeshiva, wanted to grow extra, wanted to do extra, more Torah, which is always good. The problem is those that didn't want to do more. Why would this create weakness? Because the ones that wanted to do more, they decided to take upon themselves mishmar. What's mishmar? Study Torah all night on Thursday nights. And they would study all night on Thursday night, all the way to the morning, pray nitz, and then go to sleep. So you studied a lot of Torah beyond the time of the yeshiva schedule. Fantastic step necessary for you to become a Talmid Chacham, at that age especially. But yet, the students that didn't do it saw that these guys are not coming to yeshiva. Instead of learning that perhaps they should also do mishmar, or they should at least study a little harder, they should at least try a little harder. What they learn? Oh, I guess it's okay if we don't show up on Fridays. Yeah, but they didn't come because they studied all night. Yeah, they studied all night, but they didn't come. Meaning, Rav Levinstein says, all the others learned is they didn't come. They didn't come to the shiur. Yeah, but they had a reason not to come. They didn't come. It doesn't make a difference what the reason is. They learned the bad and not the good. Now, the Chazon Ish continues, and he says, the students always imitate the teacher. And if the rebuke itself is faulty, when it's accompanied by show of bad character traits, then the student that continued to learn with such unperfected educator will acquire the bad traits as well. And what makes matters worse, says the Chazon Ish, since the educator considers himself a model of perfection, an example of all good qualities, and all the regrettable actions that he has done, he does it with pride and arrogance. And his students, they too will adopt these delusions, behaving abominably while believing that their actions are the purest of the pure. This is the worst part. The teacher, he thinks he's the best. The students are asking him a question. It's like, wait, are you doubting what I'm saying? No, I just don't understand what you're saying. Well, that's because you're dumb. Why are you questioning me? No, it's not because, okay, oh, yeah, you're right, okay. Now that kid is going to grow up, and one day, he's going to want to give a shiur. He's going to want to teach his kids. He's going to teach somebody else. And he's going to say, yeah, I learned that in this parasha, such and such happened. And one of the people listening said, wait, hold on a second. I read somewhere else that it was a little different. No, you're not understanding because you're stupid. Oh, what? Why call me stupid? Listen, trust me, you're stupid. And he thinks this is perfectly fine behavior. Why? Because his rabbi did it. And not only his rabbi did it, he did it with pride. He did it with complete arrogance. So now he thinks that what he's doing, he's following in the footsteps of his rabbi. In so many words, Kodesh Kodashim, he thinks of himself. He thinks he's the Holy of Holies. This is why you will see that the people that go against the truth, it's not hard to identify them. And it's also not hard to identify that they don't know any Torah. And in fact, they usually do not have any rabbi that they listen to. And if they have one, the rabbi is worse than them. Why is all of this a common denominator? Because you see their behavior. The behavior of the student tells wonders about what they've learned. When you see that the comments that they make in public are full of profanity, full of insults of Talmidei Chachamim, of other people, and you see how they behave, and they yell and they scream, and sometimes they get physical and violent, use all types of disgusting language. You don't need to ask that person where they learned. You already know. They learned from the Satan himself. Either the Satan is in the image of a rabbi, or simply they learned from the Satan himself. Because regardless of how they look like, whether they have a beard and a hat and a suit, or they have a t-shirt, it doesn't make a difference. The product is the product. Now, when they do this, what are they saying? They're saying things that any normal human being would look at them and say, are you insane? Is something wrong with you? Why? Because what are they saying? Oh, this is not good. Why are you rebuking people? You shouldn't rebuke people. This is you're supposed to love everyone. Okay, wait, hold on a second. You're saying not to rebuke people. That's why you don't like us, right? But you're rebuking us. So, do you not like yourself also? No, but you speak against other rabbis, and that's terrible. Who do you think you are? Wait, but you're speaking against us. And not just one rabbi, but a group of rabbis. So wait, so are you also an enemy of yourself? No, but you don't understand. What you're saying is against the Torah. Where? Where does it say this is against the Torah? No, it says V'afta l'reacha kamocha. Yeah, reacha. Do you know what that means? Doesn't matter, you're wrong. And you see, like, literally, it's like almost dealing with a crazy person. In fact, it's not almost. You are dealing with a crazy person. Because what they're saying doesn't make any sense. On one hand, they say, you're wrong because you are rebuking people while they're rebuking you. On the other hand, they're saying you're wrong for exposing bad rabbis, and that makes you a bad rabbi, while they're exposing rabbis themselves. You're wrong for disagreeing with them, and that makes you bad. But yet, it's not okay, the opposite. So, it's almost like you're trying to figure out, where did you learn all of this? And usually, the answer is from simply one bad teacher to another, all rooted from Satan himself. That's how it all happens. One time, I had a group of kids contact me. One of them was someone that would ask me a lot of questions for years. I think he's from the time he was 12 until he was maybe 17, 18 years old, 19. And he was at one yeshiva, and he told me, that he had some questions, and I would do my best to give him answers. And over the years, I saw the kid develop. Oh, HaShem, he got smarter, he got better, and, the questions changed. But then one day, all of a sudden, I saw, after literally answering questions for at least 4 or 5 years, I saw that all of a sudden he went backwards. He started asking basic level questions again about foundational things that we've already learned many times. And I said, I don't understand. We went over this. Did you forget? He goes, no, these are really not my questions. I said, whose questions are these? He says, these are the questions of all of the other students in my class, and they all have the same question. I said, what do you mean? How do they all have the same question? Why don't you just ask the rabbi? He goes, no, that's the problem. The rabbi is the one that told him this stuff. I said, but what he's saying is against the Torah. You're telling me that the rabbi is teaching you things that are against the Torah? And the kid said, yeah, I guess. Kid didn't know what to... So I picked up the phone, and I called this rabbi, and I started talking to him, and literally took 30 seconds to see that this rabbi was not only a heretic, teaching things that are against the Torah, but he was a nasty, nasty person. Like, he would not have it of any questioning of anything that he said, and it didn't make a difference if you brought Moshe Rabbeinu with you to tell him that he's wrong. It didn't make a difference. And if this would end there, it would already be enough. But this guy started hounding me, sending me all types of, literally spam, until I eventually blocked him. And I wish this only happened one time. But this happened with others. Where any time you would bring something to their attention, that what they said, what they taught, is against halakha. And you're bringing it to them nicely. But unfortunately, people don't take it that way. When they don't have a good foundation of ethics and Mussar that they've learned from their rabbi, or at the very least from books of great sages, then they are a danger to society, especially their students, regardless of what age. Now, of course, there are sometimes rabbis that take advantage of people's ignorance and try to push their weight a little bit. When their students come and tell them, listen, I learned this in a shiur. And the rabbi doesn't like to hear that the student learned whatever it was from someone else. It hurts their ego. Especially if the source that they heard it from is a Baal Tshuva, especially if it's not from their Kehila, the ego is hurt. So what do? Simple. They shoot it down. Say, nah, what did he say? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't know. It's not as simple as what he says. It's not simple. Don't listen to him. Now, one time, I had a shiur, those questions and answers. And people asked them questions. And Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me the answers. And usually, if I don't know the answer, I have no problem saying I don't know. If I do know the answer, I have no problem saying that this is the answer. And if I remember the source of the answer, then I provide the source. If I don't remember the source and someone wants it, I get it for them. Anyway, somebody asked a question. And Baruch Hashem, I knew the answer. And I provided them the answer. The shiur went online. And it wasn't maybe a day, 2 days after the shiur, I see that one of the people that made a comment on the comment section of the shiur made a public warning message. All in caps and stars. I don't even know how they do that on YouTube. Warning, ask your rabbi and a local posek before you listen to this answer regarding such and such subject. Because, in so many words, saying I made a mistake. Now, Baruch Hashem, the, ego is left at the door. If I made a mistake, I'm more than happy to admit, but in this particular case, there was no mistake. So I wrote a comment responding to this person, saying, the answer is exactly as I said, and I just clarified it further in text. And this person responds, well, my rabbi told me that what you're saying is not so simple like you say it, and in fact, their poskim, their Ashkenazi, are disagreeing with what you said, and it's forbidden. Okay. Go, how do we know the answers? We open the books. Double check. Perhaps you did make a mistake, perhaps you didn't. You open the books. And you open the books. You open some Shulchan Aruch. You open some Mishnah Berurah. You open some Yabia Omer. You open some Chazon Ovadia. You open whatever you need to open, Baruch Hashem. And in this particular case, it was 3 different things that they mentioned. They mentioned 3 different places that I'm wrong. What I said was wrong. Not I am wrong, that what I said is wrong. According to the rabbi. We opened those books. And then I said, well, actually, those same exact Chachamim that you mentioned, in this page, in this section, in this volume, say exactly what I said and agree with everything that I said. And if your rabbi simply opens the book, he will see exactly there. Now, if this was over there, it would be wonderful. But the rabbi couldn't let it go. The rabbi couldn't let it go. And he told the student, yeah, but there's another posek that they didn't mention initially. There's another posek that disagreed. And of course, they write another public warning message for the whole world to see. Yeah, but there's another posek that disagreed with this. I'm not sure how they disagreed. As if this throws everything up in the air and no one can understand this majestical halacha that's so hard to understand. And Baruch Hashem, we open the book. Get to the page. Actually, this posek didn't talk about this. He spoke about something completely different. At this page, in his book that you mentioned, on this number, this is what he spoke about, which is completely different than what we spoke about. It's not the same issue. All your rabbi needs to do is simply open the book. Even though he wasn't part of the original argument, it's okay, no problem. We're all here to learn. We're all here to learn. And here is the explanation. And it went back and forth a couple of times. And eventually, it ended with, Baruch Hashem, what was said is correct. Now, the listener that listen to this shiur is a wonderful person. I don't even know who they are, but they're certainly a wonderful person that's looking for the truth. The reason why I mention this is because the listener doesn't know that it's not their fault they're acting in such an inappropriate manner. It's their rabbi's fault. If you're really looking for the truth, you could simply make a private message, send an email, send a text, say, listen, Rabbi, you said such and such, and this shiur, my rabbi says something else, or I learned something else, and you could easily clarify it. Instead of making a whole big statement, public warning message, go ask this rabbi, go ask that, instead of making it like as if we just told people to go eat pig, you could have done it privately. But no. The rabbi that's arrogant, that's constantly looking for attention, that's constantly looking to be right, that's constantly looking to be the most righteous, the most tzaddik, the most everything, taught the students to be the same thing. Oh, somebody said something that's opposite of what we think. Go publicize against them. But hold on a second. Maybe what they said is right. Maybe what you said is wrong. Did you ever think about that before publicizing it? And that's the thing. Many times people think that if you're going and publicizing against someone else, automatically that makes you wrong to the people that don't like it, or right to the people that do like it. But the reality is that if somebody is constantly looking for the truth, there is no wrong or right. They're simply the truth. They're simply the truth. And that's what it is. It has nothing to do with you. If falsehood exists, the truth must be spoken. If the truth belongs to you, or the truth was stated by somebody else, it's just as good. And that's the problem. Many times people don't want the truth. They want to be right. They want to be right. And that all comes from bad character traits. That all comes from bad midot. And those bad midot teach people bad midot. Because what ends up happening is the students will do the same exact thing. And this is one of the most awful things that you can see in the world, where you see somebody's trying to do their best, they're trying to get closer to Hashem, they're trying to learn, but then they fall in a trap of some bad guy, some bad teacher, that tells them it's okay to dress like some movie star, tells them it's okay to just fantasize about money all day, tells them it's okay, to do whatever they want and act whatever they want as long as they, appear to be decent. And unfortunately, people are following in these footsteps to Gehenna. Now, when it comes to rebuking people, it all depends on who is doing the rebuke and who is the one that's being rebuked. One of the great examples that I learned from Rabbi Ephraim about the Gdolei Ador is that there was certainly a time for everything. If you read the Gemara, or you read different poskim, or you listen to the shiurim, or read the shiurim of the Rishon LeZion, or other great rabbis, you'll see that in the world of Torah, it's very common for rabbis to dispute each other, and at times even speak sharply against each other. There is a shiurim that Rav Yitzchak Yosef, the Rishon LeZion, does. Literally, almost in every shiur, he's speaking out against somebody that spoke incorrectly. People are always like, wow, I don't like it that you speak against rabbis. You don't like Torah then. Why? Because you're not going against the rabbi. You don't care what he does on the weekends, if he's married with kids. It has nothing to do with him. It has to do with truth. If he's spreading truth, you're the biggest fan. If he's spreading falsehood, you have to go and speak against, because the falsehood is the enemy. And this is something that is standard language in the world of Torah. And many times you'll read in the poskim, different halachot, where they're bringing you down the law and what it is, but in the process of explaining to you what the law is, they're also telling you of all of those that made a mistake. Many times they're saying, this one we don't agree with, that one we don't agree with, because we have these proofs. But at times they'll say one particular posek that completely misspoke. We don't even know where he got it from. And in some cases, it even goes down to insults. When somebody was completely did something wrong in their eyes and according to halacha. The point being is that this is not coming from the point of arrogance or the point of being right, but rather from the point of loving the truth and the God that created it, and understanding where certain things need to be said and certain things cannot be said. For example, anytime somebody discredits the Maran, the Rishon LeZion, Rav Ovadia, his son, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, brings it up if the issue is at hand, and he brings up those people that spoke against. And many times you see that the people that spoke against are like little nobodies. It's like, how did this guy dare speak against the biggest rabbi in the world? And not only speak against him and paskin against him, but do it with such disrespect and mockery. And he brings this up. In other cases, you see certain people speak against the Rambam, speak against other Rishonim. And the rabbis bring this up and they say, how did this guy, who is this guy that he thinks that he can disagree with the Rishonim? Afra lepuma, which is an expression that you say like dust be in their mouth. It's an expression you say with people that misspeak. Meaning instead of them speaking against these sages, they should put dust in their mouth instead. And this is again common language in the world of Torah. Now, when you deal with other speakers, rabbis, poskim, you have to speak in a certain language, a certain tone, because that's what is required. But when you're speaking to students, a completely different tone and different behavior is required, because they're not scholars, they're not well-known people, they're not teaching the public. And in fact, what they're doing is they're giving you an opportunity to learn from you through their mistakes. Sometimes the mistakes are not necessarily the mistakes that you would think, such as making a mistake in what the halacha is, or making a mistake in what other things are relating to the Torah itself. But sometimes it's behavioral mistakes. And one time, there was a student in the yeshiva of Rab Tzion Abba Shaul that, all the students, all the Talmidim, the Bachurim, they're waiting in the class. And one of the students saw the rabbi, Rab Tzion Abba Shaul, Gdol Hador. He saw his hat on the desk, and the rabbi hasn't showed up yet. So he decided to sit at the rabbi's desk, put the hat on, and started imitating the rabbi. He's moving his hands like the rabbi does, and he's talking like the rabbi is. Initially, the other students are laughing a little bit. They're enjoying this type of imitation. And he's continuing. And then all of a sudden he notices that no one's laughing anymore. And he continues a little more, and no one's laughing. And he looks to the side, and he sees that Rav Tzion Abba Shaul is standing at the door, watching this whole thing. I'm sure the kid wanted to bury himself. And if he was punished, thrown out of the yeshiva, no one would necessarily be surprised. But what happened next is literally the biggest Mussar lesson for all teachers with young students. Rav Tzion Abba Shaul waits for him to finish, and then he looks at him, and he smiles, and he says, kids that love their father mimic their father. Bachurim that love their Rabbi mimic their Rabbi. Now let's learn. And that's it. That was it. That was the Mussar lesson of a lifetime. If he would have punished him, if he would have yelled at him, if he would have insulted him, a lot of things could have happened. But here, all of those kids got a lesson of how does the rabbi react when someone is mimicking him, when someone is doing something that's not exactly so appropriate. No problem. Let's learn. Let's learn. And that's what happened. And that's why the story is still known to this day. Many teachers teach kids, and many of them deal with all types of things. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Many of those stories are buried in the sand. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes sure that a story is remembered for generations, there's a reason for it. Obviously, it wasn't easy for the rabbi. Obviously, it was something extraordinary in the heavens, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is looking at Rav Tzion Abba Shaul, overcoming any type of trait that's within a person naturally, and just simply focusing on what is the most important thing for us to do. Teach the kids how to be better. Teach them Mussar. If I yell at him, if I punish him, what is everybody else going to learn? But if I simply smile and tell him this is normal, shows that you love me, even if it wasn't true, it still was true in everybody else's eyes. And I'm sure it was true. But the point being is, everyone learned a lesson worth lasting multiple generations. Here we see, Rabotai, that the average person that learns from a rabbi, at first, people don't know how to act. Sometimes they assume that the rabbi is always right, and many times the rabbi is right. But sometimes the parents assume that the rabbis are right and the kids are liars. And that's not necessarily a good assumption to have. One time there was one of the rabbis in the yeshiva, that Rav David Yosef, Rav Ovadiah's son. When he was a kid, he got in trouble, and the rabbi fined him 1 lira. And he sent a letter to the house to make sure that the parents obviously know the kid has to come back to school tomorrow with 1 lira. Rav David Yosef, which at the time is only David, tells Rav Ovadiah what happened. And he says, Abba, I have 2 witnesses that I didn't do it. Rav Ovadiah says, I believe you. And he writes a letter to the rabbi. And the letter is still known today. And the rabbi reads the letter. And the letter says, there are a few issues with this letter that you sent. 1, my son has at least 2 witnesses that say that he didn't do it. 2 witnesses that say he didn't do it already, that's a big deal according to halacha. 2, according to the Gemara, there's no there's no permission for us to fine people anymore. As we learned from Rav Chisda, the sages said, Chisda, Chisda, you can't fine people anymore. Place in the Gemara. 3rd, here's the lira. Meaning, even though there's no permission to fine people anymore, I'm not disrespecting you. Here's the lira that you said, but I want to know what are you going to do with that lira? I mean, he sent the lira, he sent the money. But make sure you know, I also have my eye on you. That you are going to double check that what you did is right. And it's not just assuming that you're right and the kid is wrong always. Now, of course, the same token, there are times where the parents think they're right and their kid is right because he's their kid. And that's sometimes even worse. The young man that his mom asked me to arrange for him a rabbi, tutor, to help him with a few different things. And Baruch Hashem, b'siyat dishmaya, we arranged one of our avrichim to teach him a little bit. And after a short period of time, the mom contacted me and said, listen, the rabbi is great, he's amazing, but he's telling my son that he should write this, and my son wrote it, and he saying that he should not include a certain section of it. And I want to tell the rabbi that I actually agree with my son. Is that okay? And I told her, no, it's not okay. The rabbi is right. By default, he's right. If you want your son to learn from him, he has to know the rabbi is right. That's more important than him learning the law. That's more important than him learning for school. That's more important than anything else. If you want him to develop a relationship with this rabbi where he becomes his rabbi, you have to stay out of the way, unless absolutely necessary, and let him know the rabbi said, I do. Just like God said, we do. Same thing. Stay out of it. And Baruch Hashem, she listened. And shortly thereafter, she had another question. He said, yeah, but listen, I have this thing that I want to tell the rabbi about such and such. I said, no. Don't say anything. Let your son say it. Don't speak on his behalf. He has a mouth. Let him say it to the rabbi. No problem for him with this particular thing. No problem to say. But let him communicate to the rabbi. You don't need to keep going and saving him. Let him do it. Okay. And guess what? Baruch Hashem, the next note was, this is the best thing that ever happened to my son. Ishtabach shimo la'ad. My son is blooming. My son is happy. My son is amazing. Why? Because the rabbi became the rabbi. And the parent let the rabbi be the rabbi and not got involved when it was not necessary. Now again, this is not always the case. Sometimes the rabbis are wrong. It's our job to know when to get involved, when not to get involved. But if you are the student and you're an older person, you're not a little kid, you can speak up for yourself, you can make choices. And the choice you made of a rabbi you're going to learn from, it's clear that the choice is wrong because the rabbi has bad manners, because the rabbi is a money-hungry person, because the rabbi says things against Torah, against halacha, against HaShkafa, and you still choose to learn from him, do not be surprised if you become just like him. Because you're not Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes that's able to learn only the good from Elisha Acher, his former rabbi, after he went off the derech. Even Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes was rebuked by his colleagues not to learn from his former rabbi that went off. But Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes was at a different level, different category than anyone else in his generation. He was the only one allowed to write a Sefer Torah without having a scroll to copy it from. Why? He saw the Torah at all times. Not remembered the Torah like you would hope to. He saw the Torah. We could only hope to remember it. Needless to say, just to remember our parasha that we were bar mitzvah for. Needless to say, just one verse of this week's parasha. So, when somebody shows red flags, where they have bad character traits, they have gava, they're insulting you or other people, even if they're not insulting you, but they're insulting other people, that's already one too many flags where you have to go. Now sometimes the students think that any time they get rebuked, that's an insult. Oh, the rabbi told me I shouldn't sit here. Oh, the rabbi told me I should eat because it's Sudat mitzvah. Oh, the rabbi told me that I'm late. Oh, the rabbi told me that, it doesn't look like I have kavanah when I'm learning. Oh, the rabbi told me that I'm not putting my heart into it. And they get offended by this. That means the rabbi is doing his job. You have an ego. You want to be a student? Take the ego, throw it in the garbage. Then you can start being a student. And this is one of the things that I saw from Baruch, where he literally said some of the things that he would deal with while listening to the shiurim, while getting some guidance from me over the years, things I never heard from him before. And I enjoyed hearing it. And he said, listen, the rabbi is going to hurt you sometimes. What he says is going to hurt sometimes. Why? Because you have to change. He says, let him hurt you. Because he's going to make you really strong, really quick. This, Rabotai, is some of the best advice that you could ever get. Not only from a student, but also from someone who's also a student. All of the shiurim and all of the different times that I've spent with my Rav, they weren't always roses. They're not always roses. Many times, I'm wrong. Many times, I disagree. But one common thing that Baruch Hashem has always been the case is at the end of whatever disagreement and whatever I don't understand or I don't like or whatever it is, at the end of it all, the rabbi says what to do, I do it. Like it, don't like it, understand it, don't understand it, it doesn't make a difference. The dispute is simply because you're hoping to get to the truth. How could this other opinion that I think is not true? That's a dispute. It's never I think you're making a mistake. That is never in my mind. It's not possible. I'm just saying, is there maybe another opinion? Is there maybe another option? Is it possible that perhaps something else is the case? And sometimes I'll walk around kicking the can in the street and say, I can't believe it. I don't want to do it. And I don't want to this. And I don't want to this. And I don't want to that. On the way to doing exactly what the rabbi said. Why? If you want to have a rabbi, you have to get used to getting uncomfortable. You have to get used to listening to someone that's greater than you. Because that's your token to Olam Haba. But if that rabbi shows you bad character traits, shows you anger, animosity, shows you simply bad traits where he doesn't have your best interest in mind, he's not trying to teach you, he's simply trying to rule you, he's trying to rule over you, he's trying to insult you, he's trying to minimize you, he's not trying to elevate you, and he's not trying to raise you higher. He's simply trying to keep you down. It's time to go to a real rabbi. Baruch Hashem, today there are many good rabbis. Perhaps it's harder for some people to find than others. But I can tell you that there are many good rabbis out there. You just have to have the merit to have one. You have to have the merit to have one. You have to pray for it. You have to really want it. And once you found it, you have to do everything in your power to become that student that Baruch was talking about. Because becoming a student is no less difficult than becoming the rabbi. Thank you for learning with me. May Hashem bless each and every single one of you with siyata dishmaya to remove all obstacles in your paths, all bad speakers, rabbis, and other types of crooks out of your way, for you to see only good people in your paths, only good teachers, and even more so, for you to be the best possible students you could ever be. Kol tuv, bracha v'atzlacha. We'll learn again later this week.
Rav Yaron was the one that hit me in the stomach. The stuff he kept saying about Shabbos, and he just didn't hold back. He was just so blunt, and I need that kind of bluntness. And when he told me, I became like I was in a freezer. I was just got the chills. I was cold. I was afraid is what it was. I remember I didn't get no sleep that night, and I started realizing, okay, there's consequences to what I'm doing, and he's calling me out. Like he sees me, he's talking to me. He does that still this day. I've been studying under him for 8 years. He still answers my questions. I will about jump in on questions on Wednesday. He's already answered it. He's already there. I don't know the way he does it. I need it. I don't need someone to sugarcoat it. I don't need someone to tell me everything's going to be okay. I need someone to tell me this is what you need to do. You need to do this.